Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Pittsburgh CLO's Close-Ups, celebrating the launch of Songs for a New Year. I'm Olivia O'Connor. I'm the manager of new work development at Pittsburgh CLO, and I am going to be here every week for the next 4 weeks, 5 counting today, to introduce you to 5 original commission projects. We are so excited to share this work with you and to meet one of the teams behind the work today. We're going to be here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're not always going to be live, but we are live today. So if you are watching us live on Facebook, on YouTube, say hello so we know who's out there watching in the ether. It's always nice to see your faces. And if you are watching us in the future, thank you so much for joining us and for tuning in. We are going to be joined by 3 amazing guests today, but before we get into this little mini episode, I want to share some background on why today is special and on what Songs for a New Year actually is. So as we approach the end of 2020, which was many things, including an extremely destabilizing time, especially for the arts community, we at CLO knew that we wanted to respond to the turning of the new year in some way. Of course, nothing magical necessarily happens at the stroke of midnight on December 31st, but the event is a time for reflection and a time for looking forward, for looking back, for thinking of loved ones, and for charting a path to change. So we wanted to take all of that potential and all of that ambiguity and all of that complexity and invite artists to create something that is in relationship to it. So in November and December of 2020, we reached out to 5 writing teams, many of whom had worked with CLO before, and invited them, commissioned them to write original songs that responded to the turning of the new year. And then in December and January, as those songs were nearing completion, we commissioned choreographers to create a companion piece to that song, a dance or movement or visual component captured on video that would be scored by this original music. The results are amazing. They are still in process. We're, like I said, releasing 1 video each week because artists are still working on this. They're working up to those deadlines. But what I can say, having seen the work that's already coming in, is that we have 5 really unique and individual pieces. Everyone has taken this prompt and this project and responded to it in such a different way. And we're really, really excited to share the breadth and the depth of that work with all of you. So today, I'm really excited to welcome 3 of these artists. But before I do that, I also just want to mention one more thing, which is that due to the limitations of COVID and the safety risks of COVID, these artists have taken on an incredible amount of work. They have been recording at home, they have been filming across time zones, and they have been collaborating and coaching performers via Zoom. So I just want to thank both today's team and all of our Songs for a New Year team for their grace and their flexibility and their incredible generosity throughout this brand new project. We have been learning as we go, and I'm truly amazed at how fantastic this work is. And it's because of the hard work of these teams. Hi, Laura Berry. So excited for this New Works initiative. Oh, thank you so much, Laura. Laura's on staff at CLO, and she's a big champion of new work. So thank you, Laura. I'm glad you're watching. So today, folks, I'm welcoming our first writing team and our first choreographer. I'm so pleased in just a moment to welcome Megan Brown and Sarah Taylor Ellis and Stephanie Klemons to our program. We have been fortunate to work with all 3 of these artists at CLO in the past. Megan and Sarah have been developing their new musical, These Girls Have Demons, at CLO, both in our 2018 Spark Festival, our 2019 New Musicals Weekend, and in a writing residency. And Stephanie has worked with CLO both as a choreographer on 2019's Rock of Ages and as a performer in 2017's In the Heights. They also have incredible careers outside of the context of CLO, and I so encourage you to check out our website, both for more information on this project. You can see the link below me right there, for more information on this project and for the bios of all of the amazing creators and collaborators that worked on these pieces. So please check that out, and also check out previous episodes of Close-Ups, because we've talked with many of these teams before in more depth about their work, including Megan and Sarah. So if you're interested in learning more, you can look back at that catalog of previous episodes. And with that, folks, I want to welcome our guests here today. Let's welcome Megan and Sarah and Stephanie. Thank you all. Hello, hello. Hi. So nice to see your faces. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much for your incredible work. Before we dive in, let's say who we are and where we are, because this is one of our teams that is working all across the world. So Megan, where are you joining us from today?
I'm coming in from Pasadena, California.
Welcome, welcome. Stephanie.
I'm in Long Island, New York.
And Sarah.
And I'm in Berlin.
Wow. So Sarah, it is 11 p.m. It is after 11 p.m. Thank you for staying up late to be with us today. And I'm so happy to get to give this little kind of behind the scenes preview of this video before we release it for the first time. To kick us off, Megan and Sarah, I want to start with you by asking about the kind of impulse behind this song. So 2020 felt like several decades packed into 1 year, perhaps. And even since we started talking about this project in November, from November to now, there's been so much change. So how did you, knowing that, begin and figure out where you wanted to put your focus as writers?
You know, it was such a wonderful prompt because it was quite broad and it gave us an expanse to work with. It was either looking forward to the new year, looking back on the past year, something in between. Megan and I just had a couple of Zoom sessions where we talked about our years. I mean, we often only get to see each other once a year, maybe twice a year when we're collaborating on a project in person. And so it was such a nice moment to get to creatively reconnect when we hadn't been able to work together on really a project all year. So we had a couple of like hour-long intensive Zoom sessions just talking through, I mean, everything that had happened from COVID to Black Lives Matter to things in our own personal lives. I think everyone went through upheavals and losses and all sorts of turmoil this year in their own ways. We kind of discovered there were more questions than answers. And we also realized it was really hard to reflect on a moment while you're still living in it. And so we were grappling with quite a lot. I'm kind of swimming in a lot of ideas at the beginning of this process. Megan, do you want to talk more about the song?
Yeah. We, Sarah and I, we were joking about it earlier, but we hit a point in our conversations where we just felt like we were in a void, where we would, I felt like it was really important to me to not write something that wrapped up the moment we're in or attempted to like simplify it in a way that, like, to me, it's an offensive idea. Like we're still in this time. And yeah, so I at a point was feeling really like, oh my God, I just have no idea what we're going to write about, and kind of circled around the idea of resolutions and a New Year's resolution. As someone personally, I consider myself like a failed self-improvement junkie. Like I love New Year's Eve. I love to make the big list of how I'm going to be better later, somehow magically. And yeah, the idea of like building a character around that, of someone who's living, in this time and in this moment, and is really pushing away grief and pushing away pain and pushing away uncertainty and trying to exert some control and make these declarations and these decisions about what she's going to do and how things are going to be different and how she's going to move forward. And really playing with the idea of open and closed kind of emotions. Like a lot of the song is about a character who is really refusing to be open and just like really focused on these like, declarations and resolutions and way things are going to be and what she's going to do. And then contrasting that with moments of like deep vulnerability and openness. And yeah, I mean, one of my favorite lyrical moments in the show, it's like a very simple line, but the character just being like, I can't stay the way I've been anymore. And someone who's having that feeling like, I can't be in this grief anymore. I can't get through this moment anymore. I have to do something to get out of it. And accepting that a lot of times there's just nothing we can do. Like we're in this time and we're in this space and we have to just be in it. We can't, resolve our way out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's so funny, Megan, I don't know if you realize, but you just said show instead of song. Yeah. But that feels like, it feels so right though, because it really is a full journey. Like we go on a full journey with this person. And Stephanie, you did such an incredible job in your work of visualizing that. And so when you first got this piece, when you entered into this collaboration, you got a kind of rough demo, a composer demo of Sarah singing the song, and you got the lyric sheet. As a choreographer and really as a director on this project too, how did you find your way into that, both in terms of how you wanted to express this in movement and how you wanted to kind of translate that, knowing that it would be on film?
Yeah. So this was such an interesting process. And I just want to shout out PCLO for exploring ways that we can create new work. Because of all the different ways I've been working in this year, I have never done anything like this yet. And it's really interesting. And so when I got the song, like you said, it had already sort of been in process. And so I was kind of coming in as an observer and then having to find ways to place my fingers in it and say, how do I source an idea that feels not like an imprint, but rather like a growth from the idea of the song. And so I listened to it. I always, for the first time, listen to music without like any visual stimulation, nothing. I like to just like see the movie in my mind. And like immediately I was seeing, without knowing, so I just learned more about the creation of the song from Megan right now than I've heard before. You know, like Megan and Sarah and I spoke with you, and our talk was brief, and I have a son and he was screaming in the background. And we talked obviously about background, but the first thing I saw was this woman who was sort of ripped from her life in New York and had to go elsewhere. And she's having memories of what her life was. Like there's resolutions that are firmly based in the life that was. But the problem is the life that was is not there anymore. And so we learn throughout the song that she's understanding that these trees that she's trying to sow, like they're uprooted already. And she has to just like go to this barren space and just like find what's there. And like they said, we end the song not knowing, we don't know what the garden's going to look like. It's just like her realizing that like I'm in query, and that's it. And that was super clear to me. And so it was interesting because our first, like you said, it was a demo track. And so there were things that I was like, I want this. And then Sarah was like, oh yeah, that's going to come through in this instrument. And Megan was like, oh, when the vocalist does XYZ, that's going to, so we were on the same page, even though I've never met them. I actually realized we knew each other in the past, but very briefly. And so it was really cool to see how artists can come together and have these like common through lines that are almost like a universal understanding from art. And so I really just like dug into those. And then I don't know how much you want to talk about the process, but I knew immediately that I was going to use Morgan Marcell, who's a great friend of mine. We did Hamilton together, and she's also a director. And so I knew that I could call her and say, here's my idea. And she would know and be able to execute putting a camera somewhere and shooting it. And remember, it's not like a regular directing choreography thing where you see the shot and you're like, you know what, can you do it again like this? Like, I just had to trust that the stuff she was going to drop in the Dropbox was going to be it. Also, like you said, like we spoke about this last week in December, and it's like not just mid-January now. This was a really quick turnaround. And so on all counts, this process was artists taking really like their first instinct, right? And I'm also not an editor. I love editing, but like, you know, if I could have flipped, you know, the film of certain things, I would have had to exit, you know, off the screen to the right, not the left. But I can, you know, we have these limitations, and yet we still made these things work. And so all in all, when I came into the process, it was very cool to sort of see how, like I said, the ideas synced up. And then they've just seen the video for the first time this morning.
Yeah. We're so excited to share this video. Yes, everyone is like, there were lots of ecstatic emails this morning, which is so wonderful. And I'm glad that you brought up process, Stephanie, because I do want to talk a little bit about process because it was so unusual here. And so Sarah and Megan, you know, you were working with a vocalist with Katherine and Peyton. We also know her as Katie from afar. Talk to us about that. And you had also had an existing relationship with Katie prior to this process, yeah?
We did. We were so lucky to work with Katie on a workshop of Demons, gosh, 2 years ago now. But because of that, we knew her voice incredibly well. And once we had decided on Katie as the singer, I mean, I knew exactly how to write for her voice and to sort of place it so that it would fit really perfectly in her range. I think she also brings so much to this particular character. I think that she has such a unique timbre of voice, and that really, really enhances the character that came through it. I think the character grew much more specific once we landed on Katie as a vocalist as well.
Yeah. And I feel like Katie can really land a joke in a lyric, which is something that I really like about her style in general. And yeah, I mean, it was really talking about process. This was so interesting. You know, I'm primarily a playwright, and I've, you know, done some musicals with Sarah, but I've never written a song that doesn't exist in, you know, a larger piece. And I think for me, it really distilled the process in a way that's very, yeah, just like really, really kind of amazing to see, like, when you just have a small thing where you're like, yeah, we talked about it, and then I wrote a bad version of the lyrics, and we talked about it again, and the lyrics got a little better, and then Sarah had a draft of the music, and so I made the lyrics better, and we made some music changes, and then it goes on to, you know, Stephanie, who had this amazing idea. It goes on to Katie, who adds a totally different style and, you know, hits certain things in different ways, and we made more lyric changes. And then it becomes this big, you know, beautiful video. So yeah, it was really like this process for me was so much fun. And just really like, I think it really gave me a sense of appreciation for what everyone is able to bring to a project so quickly and with such strange circumstances. So yeah, for me, I mean, I found the process incredibly valuable.
And I would piggyback on what Stephanie said earlier. Trust is just so essential in this process. And we had conversations throughout the process, and Megan and I had pre-existing relationships with Katie, but Stephanie was new to the team to us. And the moment we met with you, Stephanie, that idea, we just went, oh yeah, she knows what she's doing. Right. She's got it. Like it's so lovely to get to work with people where you have that inherent trust, because as collaborative as this was, it's also very independent. And I think that's one thing that we're all missing right now, is being in the same room together and being able to have more extended conversations. But it's lovely to develop those trusting relationships with other creatives and to really be able to dig into your own craft and discover other parts of yourself that you didn't know that you had, new potential within your own work that you had never explored before. But I think by the same token, now we all want to get back in the same room together and make things too.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so crazy, because if we were able to be in the same room, we would have discussed things within an inch of their lives. Like we would have had so many more discussions. And yet there's something really beautiful about giving an idea and then just like letting it fly, you know, like having this sort of, you know, relay race in a way, you know, that ended essentially with Morgan, who I sent ideas back over to California, where Morgan is right now, and said, get me videos back. And it's really, really cool to explore that sort of trust fall with other artists.
I love that. I love that so much. The excitement and the potential of doing things quickly and with trust has honestly been a lesson for me too. And in this process, it's so rare that we see something through from beginning to completion like this. You know, these are truly micro commissions. Often commissions for full-length pieces are a years-long process. So getting to actually commission something and then share it with the world in a matter of weeks, truly, it's really exciting. And we thank you all for trusting us and for being brave enough to be our first release today. Honestly, I'm so grateful to all of you for diving in and being willing to put your work out there first. We're really excited and grateful to share it. And we are going to share it in just a moment. We're going to have our little live premiere of Resolutions. And then after this, folks, you'll be able to watch it both within the context of this video, but it's also going to live on as its own video on YouTube. So please do share it widely, share it with your friends. We're so proud and grateful for this work. Before we share, I do want to say, as always, thank you to our team who makes this little show possible, to Becca and Sid, who are running things behind the scenes, to our graphic designer Steph for our beautiful graphics, including our Songs for a New Year graphic, and to composer Adam Overit for our theme music. Megan, Sarah, Stephanie, thank you. This was such a pleasure to get to share a little bit of the making of this process. And folks will be back here next week with a new song with Matt Schatz and Latre Jerome's collaboration, A Cynic and an Optimist. And now we are going to leave you with the premiere of Resolutions. Enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you. We hope you enjoy. You will. Thank you so much. Here's Resolutions, everybody. Bye-bye.
I'm gonna get my shit together, make more money, waste less time, call my parents every Sunday, take up yoga, put down wine. I'm gonna be different next year. I'll be kinder to my body, gain some muscle, lose some weight, fill the fridge with glowing smoothies, count my macros and hydrate. I'm gonna be better next year. You won't even recognize me. Time to grow, time to change, say goodbye to who I was before. Must evolve, rearrange, because otherwise what was this for? And no more smoking either, except on weekends. I'm gonna organize my closet, get my skeletons in a row, stop the constant self-destruction, interrogate the status quo. It's got to be different next year. It's time for reinvention. Gather kindling, light the match, watch this sad life spark and shatter. I'll burn it down and not look back. It's got to be better next year. Don't want you to recognize me. So I'll grow, so I'll change, somehow claw my way up off the floor. I'll evolve, rearrange, because otherwise what was this for? This is not what I wanted, this is not who I wanted to be. I thought I would be braver, staring down tragedy. Stepping up to the plate, thought I'd take a big swing and knock it out of the park, lap up victory. Thought we'd come out unscathed with the choices we made, huddled up safe and sound from the noise of the crowd. But what I didn't know was how quickly you'd go, and that healing comes slow. This is the year that I lost. This is the year that I lost. This is the year that I lost you. This is the year that I lost. I'm gonna get my shit together, break old habits, make new friends. I'll be strong, whole, calm, collected. At least that's what I'll pretend. Please let it be different next year. I don't want to recognize me. Have to grow, have to change, say goodbye to who I was before. Must evolve, rearrange, because otherwise what was this for? What was all this pain and rage for? Have to grow, have to change, I can't stay the way